Welcome everyone to the Nikken Live call. My name is Susan Carver. I have the pleasure of hosting this call, but I'm joined by three individuals that will be sharing some of their story. And I've known two of these three people for over 20 years, and the third one came in, Gary, I think we've known each other, I guess, well over 7 or 8 years. So we've got a group here, we're familiar with each other. But what we're all come together to do is to share with you a little bit why we started out all those years ago, and most of you that are hearing us now, either on recorded playback or live, are taking a look at this and making a decision if this is something that you want to get involved with. Well, obviously the four of us decided this was the right kind of fit for us, but that's not what the call today about. The call today is about seeing if it's something that you can maybe get from each of our experiences that is maybe something that would add something to your life. I know for myself, I was 28 years old when I got started, and I'm celebrating my 23rd, 24th year here. So it's been a great career, but again, today is to expose you to kind of what we've been up to see if the benefits that we've been enjoying all these years is something that would say, well, wait a minute, that's different from what I have now. And maybe I'd like to have some of those benefits that these people are experiencing in my own career. The good news is that most of us started part-time. We start out just with a few hours here and a few hours there, working in our schedules. And we made it happen. We didn't have to leave our main career to make this happen. So let's jump right into the call. We're kind of having some fun today. We're going to start up in Canada, in Toronto, and then we're going to make our way down to Georgia, and then we're going to swing into St. Pete Beach and end up in Florida. So again, for anyone listening on playback or live, thank you very much for giving us your attention for the next half hour or so. Really believe that this information will be valuable to you, and that there might be something there that, again, that might resonate with you. So let's jump right back out and go right into Bo Tanis. Bo, you are joining us from Toronto, Canada. If you'll just kind of share with us a little bit of your background and what attracted you to form a partnership with this Japanese company called Nikken.
Be happy to. Hi, everyone. Well, bottom line is it's been a life-changing and a very powerful experience for the last over 25 years for me. Before Nikken, I had done a lot of different things. I had been a musician, an entrepreneur. I've had some successful businesses, some unsuccessful ones. So I've seen the ups and downs of traditional business. And as you may know, normal business is very expensive, $100,000, $200,000, $1 million to start the average business. I had retail stores and restaurants, and I made great money with the video stores, but I lost everything in a restaurant. So I was looking for something. I got into real estate because I had no more cash to start a business of my own. But from that experience, I met a gentleman by the name of Bruce Black, a wealthy retired man who was introduced and involved with Nikken. Mike DiMuccio, who's also from Toronto, as is Bruce, introduced Bruce to it. He had an amazing product experience. And what intrigued me was the fact that why is this multimillionaire involved enthusiastically with these unusual magnetic and wellness products from Japan? So I came to a presentation. I saw and heard enough. That's it. I'm going to at least sign up so I can get these products, get them wholesale, start using them, developing a belief in them. And I was broke at the time because I didn't have much money and I didn't have much time. I was in real estate in a very down market. So I was really struggling, but I knew if I didn't make a change, nothing would change. So I took every opportunity I could to come to an event, listen to Nikken audios in the car all day long to feed my brain about the information of the products and network marketing. And so over the course of about 6 months, I started part-time, but I was able to go full-time after about 6 months because the products excited people and because of the things we did to launch our business. And that's a key word I would suggest everyone make a note of, to launch your business. Just like an airplane getting off the ground, you're hoping it gets up to terminal velocity of at least 181 miles an hour, so it can lift off the ground. Otherwise, you're going to run out of runway. And that happened with us. We just saw a lot of people. We were excited for a number of reasons. Number one, we knew that if we can build a large network quickly, share this with a lot of people, help a lot of people quickly, it could alter the financial trajectory of our lives, and it did. And many of us on this call and others who are not on the call have literally made millions in the business because of, over time, the more people in your network, the more people are being helped, the more product consumption occurs, and the more income is generated for you and your team. And so basically, the bigger the network, the bigger the check. So I understood that early on because I really studied it. So I made it my total focus to build that network as quickly as possible. And I'm sure glad I did.
Bo, the video business and the restaurant business, obviously the video business doesn't exist anymore. But the good thing about Nikken is that the products that we have, really diabetes, things that it helps for people with sleeping problems, people with discomfort, those are really going to go on forever, aren't they?
They are, but I have to correct you. There is one final blockbuster video out in Oregon. And it's a place people go to and take selfies in front of because it's the last one. Well, you're right. The issues that Nikken products address, plus the lifestyle that Nikken addresses in terms of income and being able to multiply your time and effort through the time and efforts of others and about empowering others, those are universal and timeless and will always be here.
Now, real quick before I ask you the final question, you have 2 boys, is that correct?
Yeah.
With your extra income in Nikken, what have you been able to expose your sons to that if you'd stayed in real estate, those boys never would have gotten exposed to?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, because of Nikken, I had the time and the money to take them in many countries around the world. And I've heard it said, and I think it's true, travel is the best form of education. Mm-hmm. And being exposed to different people, different cultures, it's just a wonderful experience. I remember once telling them, I want you to be able to feel at home anywhere in the world, with the poorest of people, with the richest of people, because we're all one people. And they've had a wonderful experience.
Awesome. So my question before we part and go to Georgia is to ask you, if you had to start all over again, is there anything looking back with hindsight that you would have done differently? You mentioned the importance of launching your business, but what are a couple of things or one thing that you do differently with the experience that you have now?
I would do more of what I did. Mm-hmm. Here's an example. Mike DiMuccio sponsored 35 people in first 60 or 90 days.
35, okay.
35. And you do that like in creating a sports team. You have many people on a team. They're not all going to be superstars, but you need everyone. But right. You do want a few superstars. And he found a handful of superstars. And I sponsored 21. I wish I sponsored 35. I was fortunate to get some really great people who love Nikken, love the products, love helping people, and don't feel that money is a bad thing. They wanted more of it. It's just like a servant, a tool like anything else. Right. And they were already in that headspace when they joined Nikken. Some people take months or years to get to that space, but I recommend any of you who are getting started to find a few, 2, 3, 4, 5 people like that who are ready to go right now. And you have to typically sponsor 15, 20, 30 people quickly to do that. You don't just sign them up and walk away. You do everything to help them, but not everybody's ready. Work with the ones who are ready. And
a lot of people will enroll just to be a wholesale customer. So you have to make sure that you know that going in too. So awesome.
Yeah, not everyone has the same level of desire and work ethic.
That's true. Thank you, Bo. Appreciate it very much. Now, everyone, let's go out. Again, thank you, Bo. We're going to go out to Georgia. That is my home birth state. Even though you don't hear the accent, Mr. Bolton's going to supply it for you right now. So Gary, would you please share with us what was your attraction to this Nikken opportunity?
I didn't really know I had an accent. I joined Nikken September the 14th of 2008. I was in a sports bar with a couple of buddies of mine and having some beers, and one of them slapped me in what I called then my bad shoulder, and I was very vocal about it. And there happened to be a Nikken consultant in the bar, and they came over and asked me about my shoulder, and I told them, and they said that they thought they might have something that would help it. And she was cute, and I'll never forget. I said, "Baby, I bet you do." And she was like, "No, give me your card." And we met the following week, and she actually loaned me a product that I never intended on using, but I wound up using it. And after 10 days, she called me back to get the product back. And when she called me and said she wanted it back, I told her over the phone, I said, "Honey, you will never get this thing back." And I wound up meeting her and paying her. I was a retail customer, bought the product. She held up some crazy shoe insoles and said she knew I owned a gym, and she said some athletes say these will make them stronger. Of course, that's, dangling a carrot in front of a rabbit. So I bought those too, and we did some experiments in the gym with some of the high school kids. They were maxing out in the bench press, and
wow,
there was a bunch of guys in the gym, and I called her back after that night and said, "Hey, we need 5 more sets of those shoe insoles." And when I told her that, she said, "Well, you should become a distributor and you can sell the products through the gym." And I said, "Sure." So that's how I became a consultant.
wow.
She invited me to a big event. It was in October of 2008. She said, "Let's go to Florida." And of course, I was single and she was single. And I said, "That sounds great to me." I had no idea there was going to be 2 carloads of us and I'd be bunking with the guys. It was totally. But at that event, I met Jim Starnes, who would later become my mentor and my, my teacher in Nikken. But I had a good job at the bank. I wasn't motivated by building a business, and I really didn't do anything. And then in August of 2009, almost a year after I joined Nikken, Taylor Bean & Whitaker, the bank I was working for, closed. The FBI had come into Ocala, Florida, and chained the doors shut. And I was working in a branch in Lawrenceville. When I got to work that morning, the sheriff's department was out there not letting anybody in the building. So I was out of a job. Well, I didn't expect it to last long, but it did. It lasted almost a year before I got another job. It was about 9 months. By April of 2010, my farm was advertised for foreclosure in a local paper. I had 2 credit cards in judgment. I was struggling. I started cutting firewood and selling it, just to keep the lights on. And I was in my 50s. So I called the richest, smartest man I know, which was Jim Starnes, and asked for his advice. And he told me that there was a Humans Being More coming up in April, and suggested that I go and go to that Humans Being More. I think he could see that my mind wasn't quite where it needed to be to handle what I was going through. And I remember telling him, I said, "Jim, I barely got the money to keep the power on. How can I afford to spend money on a drive into this thing and getting having these expenses?" But I didn't have any other ideas. So I went to Humans Being More, and I'll never forget, they had a 90-day rank advancement commitment form. And I was an executive on April the 25th of 2010, and I filled it out, and I said I'd be silver by May 20th. Now, at the time, you had to do, I don't remember if it was 20 or 25,000.
Yes, sir.
In order to advance to silver. But I knew there was a quarterly event coming up on May 22nd in Atlanta that I wanted to go to as a silver. And so I came back home. Humans Being More got my head right, and I went back to all the things I'd been told as far as doing the 100 name list, and I revisited that. And suddenly those people that I didn't have I wouldn't approach, I would approach. I mean, suddenly there was nothing as intimidating as having your farm taken away from you. So I did. I went silver. I was recognized as silver on May 22nd of 2010, and from that point forward, Jim and I we became close friends and talked almost every day from then on. And the money that I made then during that silver run helped me to keep my farm from being foreclosed on. I've paid off both those credit cards now, and my farm's in good standing. My credit rating is very high now from what happened. I did go back to work at a bank, but I left the bank for my final day was in January 2013, and I've focused on my Nikin business ever since.
Mr. Bolton, that's a lovely story. I think a lot of us that are listening as you were talking and sharing something, and first of all, I thank you for being so vulnerable and forthright with this information. And I know the reason you're sharing it is because all of us know people that have been in that situation or are currently in that situation. And if we live another 20 years, 30 years, we're going to meet more people because those kind of life circumstances happen. So I appreciate you sharing that. But the thing that you said that was so wonderful is talking about getting your head straight. So if you had to do this business again, if you had to start back in 2008 and get started again, what were some of the things with your limited time, with your limited income, what were some of the things that you know now that maybe that you would incorporate during those very, very difficult times?
Well, I would have got started then. I mean,
Instead of 2010.
Yeah, instead of in 10. I mean, I heard Dennis Williams say one time that when he joined Nikin that making money didn't motivate him, but poverty certainly did. And I found that talking to folks was a whole lot easier than running a chainsaw and cutting firewood and trying to sell it.
Yeah.
And it made a lot more money. I would go back and I had some great contacts at the bank. And I was high up in the bank and had a lot of respect amongst all those folks, all the appraisers and real estate people. And I see that today as a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Of course, by 2010, most of those relationships were kind of downwind from me. And I missed out on all that. But again, when I got in that crack, I went back and I pulled that 100 names list out, and people that I hadn't added before, I suddenly was adding anybody that I had any kind of had ever encountered. Mm-hmm. And the ones that I wouldn't call before, I would call then. It was a little time before I could afford to buy the packs. But as soon as I could, I bought packs after I got started. I had a huge support from my upline that helped me, loan me products so I could loan them out to build my business. I'll never forget that. It's just when you didn't need the success, it just didn't seem like anything that I wanted to do. And I heard you say we chose it, but I really didn't choose it. It kind of chose me because I didn't have any other choice. And with Jim giving me the suggestions of going to Humans Being More, and again, that just sort of straightened me up. And as a banker, I used to tell people, if I can figure out how your plan will work on paper, I'll give you a loan. But if I can't see it on paper, I'm not going to loan you any money. And I had already looked at the business plan, and I realized, by the way we did, we earn 40% on what we personally sell, and then of course we earn 6% on whatever everyone we introduced to the business sales. I knew that would work, and it meant unlimited income. But until I had to act, I didn't.
Wow.
And if I went back to the beginning and knew what the future held, I would have treated it totally different that first year and a half I was in and still an executive. I would have been like Bo taught. I would have wanted to have done 35 people too during that first, and had the contacts to do it at that point in time.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for sharing. That's awesome. Oh, now we're going to head down to Florida, St. Pete Beach. My goodness. What's the temperature down there today, Miss Barbara?
Actually, it's pretty nice. I think it's in the 80s.
It's nice every day, Barbara. Okay, just admit it. It's nice every day down there. So wonderful. Well, as our last speaker today and as a female, give us an idea of how is your story different from these guys? How did you come? I know we've known each other well over 20 years, but because I'm in Florida and you're in Florida, but did you come into this? You came into it basically the same way Gary did, maybe not in a bar with some beers, but you came into this way because of a product need. Did someone think of you through the products, or did they think of you through the business? It was through the products, wasn't it?
It was through the product.
Okay.
I suffered with a bad back for 4.5 years. And
Bad what?
For 4.5 years, I suffered with a bad back.
Okay.
If you had asked me, Barbara, how do you sleep? I'd say, great, I sleep anywhere and everywhere. I just didn't know I was exhausted, right? So with that, I was misdiagnosed, I like to say, with chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, and even for 2 weeks, I was diagnosed with MS. And I say that to kind of rattle people about how severe sleep deprivation really is. But my story is my neighbor, and if you ever see a woman and kids and things, because my children were young when I started, just bolting in the house and going and doing, I could just barely handle me and my family. I wasn't going to be chit-chatting with the neighbors and going in and out. I couldn't do it. I could barely just handle it. But anyway, a neighbor shared, a brother flew in from Maui, Hawaii with these products and started sharing everything. And another neighbor had a really bad wrist problem, and she was Spanish and she knew everything in the neighborhood, and she knew I had the bad back. And she said, you need to go talk to Barbara. So on a Friday night, I went down there and listened to some presentation. I was kind of, okay. I think at that point, if you had told me to jump on one foot, spin around, do this, do that, I would have done it, if it would have helped me not hurt. But anyway, I went down there, I listened to the presentation. I got a rollout, a massage, and back then he didn't know what he was doing because I actually had some bruises on my back. But you know what? It was good. I'm like, yeah, you can do it hard. I had no idea, But anyway, so I had some bruises the next day. And my husband at the time, I was like, okay, you got to go down. You got to go down there and talk to these people. And I had to bribe them with those drinks, there, Gary, and the other thing, and Maui, Hawaii, because I was like, well, maybe y'all know friends because you lived there for 2 years, and get down there and kick the tires. Now, this is how I was, Susan. I wanted the car. Okay, so he loaned me the pad and the pillow.
This is the product that you put in your back.
No, I actually had topper.
The sleep pad. Okay.
The pillow, which at the time was a brick. And I did buy the back flex. I bought that and the insole. And, you kind of think more's better. And he loaned me the Mag Boy. So I had those things that I was playing around with, the Mag Duo. And I wanted to possibly get the car seats, the Mag Duo, the insole, I bought the, but I just didn't have an extra $500 to start out that, and more for the sleep topper. But I tell you about, okay, so we went back and forth. I pulled the pad over to his side of the bed, then my side of the bed, then his side of the bed, then my side of the bed. So one day I came home and it was under him. And I was like, hey, get up. It's my turn. It's my side. I'm going to get a good night's sleep tonight. And he's like, oh, no, it's not. I'm like, yes, it is. Get up and get off. So I kicked him off the pad to get up, to get on it so I could sleep and handle everything. And that was it. That was like, okay. The other big light that went on was it was an investment into a business. It shifted from spending money on myself and just having things that now are priceless and you can't take mine away, like Gary was also saying. You can have mine, but I will, set you up and get you your own. But it became an investment into a business that had the potentiality of having all those numbers and things that we had seen prior. We had done another network marketing company a while back, and I had, anyway, we just had made a vow we would never do it again. We'd never do another one. We'd never do that was with cassettes and the things. And, there was one, the Big A, and that we just didn't want to do it. But now the fact that I couldn't shut up because I felt better. I was running around. People could see me. At the time I did medical billing for doctors, so I could have flexible time to be with my kids. I could be controller of my own time. Value for any mom, any parent out there. They want to have that control and freedom. And so those were vital. So that medical billing got me in the backdoor doctor's offices, which people go, oh, well, you had all these connections. Well, doctors, God bless you. I love you. You're the worst. You're not, they are. But if you see them in the back of their office, the nurses are leaning on the counters. They're stretching their feet. They're stretching their back. They're exhausted. And so they're on their feet all the time, running around, doing different things, and they can't think of another thing. But, I just couldn't stop talking about it. And I had to learn this business. And, now I'm, not in that relationship, but we have my son's getting married and a lot of things are happening. And, we have our own distributorships, which is great. And I just love it. I think that, I call it the levers and dials of my life. I got control of my life. NECANN has and been the catalyst for me. Now, I also have passions of art and giving back to the community. I'm a breast cancer thriver, so I have passions there of 14 years. And, different things that I'm passionate about. And NECANN, I'm very passionate about and am just need to get the word out, right, to share with people and such. And
so what would you do differently? You had to roll it back and start again. What was like the first 60, 90 days of launching, as Bo was beautifully telling us about the plane, so you don't just going down the runway?
I want to clean something first, and that is that you don't have to get in to buy wholesale anymore because our prices came down so much that retail is
right.
And so retail, buy from your friends retail, that's amazing. But if you're thinking of getting in for a business, then sign up to build the business and build a team. That's really the main reason to build and sign up. So on that note, in the beginning, I signed up anybody who could breathe. I
think you said one time if they could fog a mirror.
I had a 1-year-old lady in a trailer park that I signed up. So I had 34 people, but they were not 34 business builders. Okay. Right. I probably had about 5. 6 at the time. We have a tendency to say get 7 to have that backup person, right?
Right.
And build it that way. I always went to people and said, this may or may not be for you, but let me show you, because when I get there, I don't want you coming to me and saying, hey, why didn't you share this with me? So right. I did that with family, but I didn't do it with my close-knit friends. And so I think I would do that as well. That chicken list, those good friends, those people that are big in the community, I think I would have done a little bit more of that and bought all the packs and had more to loan out. I think loaning is still a valuable tool.
I agree with you. Yeah, I still kind of do that soft approach where it's like, I take off this necklace and I'll loan it to someone, or a bracelet, and saying, I use the example. I say Costco doesn't give that food away with the little people with the hairnets if it didn't work. Because there's a certain percentage of people, they're very relaxed. They get to try something. They're like, oh, that's not for me. Or, oh, the product, I didn't feel enough to purchase it. But in my experience, which has been over 20 years, 70% of people go, you're not getting this back, or what's in this, and how much is it, and where do I get one? Those kind of questions, where now they're kind of coming at you. I mean, it never works for you to come at people, but as you said, to share and expose people and raise their awareness. But now people are like, oh, you're not getting that back, or wow, that I'm 50% better. That's great. I'm not putting drugs in my body. So thank you for sharing. So as we wrap this up today, thank you, Barbara, by the way. And I want to thank all of our speakers for taking their time. There's no financial gain for these people to be on this call today. All of us kind of came together to kind of share, because I think all of us, if I may speak for you guys, is we all feel like we got in on a wonderful secret. And it's a shame that it is a secret. And that's what we get paid for, is exposing this to people and interesting people in having kind of a franchise type of experience. What I mean by a franchise is that you don't have to create the product. You don't have to come up with the recipe. You don't have to pay for the marketing and everything. The company handles all of those things. You're not in charge of shipping. You're not in charge of the taxes or payroll or anything like that. It's truly, other than the receipts that I keep, it's truly a paperless business. It's a business of communication. And a lot of it is communication from the heart. If that person in the bar had not thought enough to say, hey, let me see if I can help that guy that was just yelling with the pain, and coming to Bo and saying, hey, if this gentleman is one of the wealthiest gentlemen in Canada, which I know who he's talking about, and he's involved with this Japanese company, boy, I better kind of sit down and take a look at this. And then with you, Barbara, the heart of someone coming up and saying, hey, you got nothing to lose. You've been suffering for years with these problems with your back. This isn't something you put in your mouth, and it's not going to negatively affect you. So all of us were very grateful. I got exposed to this strictly as a business, because at 28, I didn't have any physical challenges going on. I was in a car accident, but there wasn't anything dire like some of the people on this call. So as we say goodbye, really, really take a look at this to see maybe why you were invited. There's probably 5 reasons why you would do this, ladies and gentlemen. Mentally, you're not happy doing what you're doing. Boy, I fit that category. I was living out in California in a rented room, and I had $4,100 in my checking account. So number 1, absolutely, the mental pillar, the stress, the worry of saying, wow, I'm 30 and I don't even own a home. I don't even have an apartment. I'm going nowhere in my career. So that mental pillar might be something of why you would be interested in this. Family-wise, might be able to help some people in your family, or to be able to do this as a business, and then maybe financially an extra $300 to $500, $1,000 a month that you don't need could be a blessing to that family, or give you more time with your current family. Society. Barbara talked about the things that she donates to, and I saw on Facebook how she had done some mission work and the giving back part. And Bo, I know you're very generous in things that you give to. And then the other area is physically being able to look at, so it's mind, it's body, it's family, it's society, and it's finances. So look inside one of those 5 areas: mind, body, family, society, and finances, and see if you're as full as you want to be in that area. Because at 28 years old, I had balance, but ladies and gentlemen, I had all 5 of them were weak. Mentally, I didn't like what I was doing. Physically, I'd been in that car accident. Society, I wasn't doing anything for them. I was just a mess. Financially, I was going nowhere. So my 5 areas were very weak and very low. And someone thought of me and said, hey, you know what? You should probably come take a look at this, because you care about people, but you're not lazy. And so I went, and it forever changed my life as well. And just to wrap up, if you think this is kind of small, let me just give you one number as we say goodbye. I'm just going around and calculating, because I know financially what each of the four of us basically have earned in our time in Nikken. And just to let me start it out with, my first year I made $12,000. So I wasn't a rock star in this thing, and I wasn't anyone that looked like I was going to do anything big in this business. But collectively, the four of us in this business, in a home-based business, all of us basically started financially in a hole, did we not? Right? Gary, Barbara, things weren't so good at your house, and Bo, and I know things weren't good for me. So the four of us, if you can find four hungry people, as we were many, many years ago, the four of us have collectively made over $17 million. $17 million, just the four or more on this call. But I know that number, you can take it literally to the bank, that's 100% true. So the power of a few people, because I know Bo's business and most of his income comes from a few people. Barbara, right? Most of your income and your network started with a few people. Gary, right? Started with a few people. My business, I have less than 4 people that have created everything. So it pays you to talk, to communicate, to be aware, and to see where you can help people, mind, body, family, society, and finances. And if you have other people's genuine interest in mind when you talk to them, you're going to have some amazing blessings. And we've definitely been blessed in many, many ways. So thank you all. Some of you on the playback, thanks for watching this video. If you're doing a live event, I'll turn you back to your host. But thanks for taking the time today and listening to 4 people that all had different needs in our lives, but someone had the courage, ladies and gentlemen, to come up to us and say, hey, you should take a look at this. It wouldn't hurt. So thank you so much and have a great day. Bye-bye. Thanks, guys. You're fantastic.